Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. And this is the, I guess you could call it, one last shot at trying to go through and get to the final round of where we start actually eliminating games and trying to make this top 100 of the 2010s, the decade that was. I am Sean Garmer, and I go ahead and apologize in advance. I'm actually at my house this time recording, and my daughter has a friend over, and you might hear kids screaming in the background. Trust me, they're okay. It's just...
It's all content.
Yeah, she's 8, and yeah, that's what they do.
That's all likely story.
But I'm not here to do this, which I guess we're going to just do this on the fly of how we're going to do these. I'll explain a little bit more in a second, but here with me, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
Jens Dietrich.
Hi.
Sorry, I said Jens. It's Jens.
That's okay. I never correct people on my name.
My not German is already failing me. Randy Isbelle.
Hello.
And Daniel Anderson.
Hello.
So... okay, the idea behind this is we had games that we kind of left out in the ether that were perhaps big-time influential games, or just, those games that kind of just didn't make the top 10, and somebody wants to try one more time to get them in above another game. So we're going to do that here. Ideally, this would be the, special Patreon podcast that you don't hear in your feed, but we don't have a Patreon, so whatever. You get this, and here it is. So what we're going to try to do, I guess, is go year by year, and if you felt that there's a game that it needs to be in that, maybe it didn't make the top 10 individually, but we're talking about 100 games here, and not every single game that was in that top 10, perhaps, needs to be completely in when we're talking the top 100s, so that's what we're doing. We're kind of seeing if there's anything we need to replace that should go from this other list before the other. So let's start in 2010, and everybody kind of made lists like pick 3 or 4 games from each year. Not always 3, not always 4. Sometimes it's 2 and sometimes it's 0, depending on the year. So but we'll get started in 2010. So, Jens, we had Deadly Premonition. It didn't quite make the top 10 that year, but we had some strong support for it. And also the first Nier, which tends to get a lot of more of a bad rap than a good one.
Well, I feel like Nier gets a lot of love now. Like, it has been reevaluated as the great action RPG that it is, and also, of course, for its story, it is really one of the great video game stories. But of course, at the time that it came out, it got very middling reviews. There was there was a whole review that infamously was just built around the fact that they hated the fishing mechanic. There was a lot of crapping on Nier in 2010, but of course it has since become the cult game that it deserves to be, not the least because it of course ended up spawning Nioh Automata. I've always thought it was a great game. I feel it is historically significant, but I would also not, there's a lot of competition in 2010. I don't know if this going to slot into 2010 specifically, or is this just kind of slotting into the 100 overall?
Well, we're not going back and replacing the top 10s. That's done. Those are locked in. What we're doing is just seeing if we want to carry over any of these games for sure, which we all kind of have to agree, because I'm not going to take over 50 games, because then we're just going to go and eliminate most of them anyway. Okay. So you make your case. If anybody's really behind it or really tends to agree with you, then they can talk. If not, then,
So I'm curious, did anybody else at this table play Nier?
Nope.
I have not.
No.
Okay.
I thought you did, Mark.
No.
Oh, okay.
It was a PS3 game, and I got my PS3 like really late, so.
Well, I mean, you just have to take my word for it that it's really good. But
but you
I
also think
you
also think Dark Souls is good, so your opinion can't be trusted.
Okay, but
oh man, here we go.
Is that most people think Dark Souls is good.
Exactly.
We took 4 minutes to get back to this. All right.
Jeez.
No, I think like Nier has good music, but I remember that I've heard the gameplay is just really banal compared to even most games of that era.
No, I mean it's no more banal than something like Fable. I mean it's maybe a tad clunkier.
It's not a ringing endorsement.
Well, but no, I just felt it was deserved a mention. I knowing that with my list, I've got quite a few games on my list where I'm thinking that they're not going to have support from the rest of the group, so I just wanted to mention it.
You're talking about, man, you had Metal Wolf Chaos on your list.
Well, we'll get to that.
Well, I mean, we discussed Deadly Premonition. I think a lot of us liked it, so maybe we can carry that one over.
Yeah,
to give it
I think again it's historically notable for kind of turning Swery into a star. And I mean, he was kind of stuck developing what was it, spy fiction or
he did some
Metal Gear knockoffs.
I was like some Metal Gear Splinter Cell crap, and I was like, what?
Yeah, so Deadly Premonition, even though it was even though it's a cult game really and not really a critical darling, it did kind of jumpstart his career in a way and help him start a studio and get him more projects, and is generally regarded as an important game.
I would say influential is fine, but not best game of 2010.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'd be fine with Deadly Premonition being on a list like this.
All right, great. All right, so I guess we cut Nier, but we leave Deadly Premonition.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Okay.
Let's leave it for that. So
that's my 2010. So.
All right, so several of us have Fallout New Vegas on their list, which is
if we're gonna have one Fallout game of the past decade, it's gonna be New Vegas because 4 is a mess and 76 is even a bigger mess. So.
Yeah, and New Vegas is the one that's kind of most fondly remembered for its writing.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's very easy to say New Vegas was one of the top 100 games of the decade.
Yeah, I mean, New Vegas tends to be, out of even 3, a lot more well-liked. So, like Mark said, if we're going to pick one, I think maybe even over Outer Worlds, if we're going to go with even Fallout-like.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, because I think Outer Worlds is at least trying to evolve the genre, not just make the same game over and over.
Yeah, I don't know if I would put it above Outer Worlds, but it is. I would put it as one of the top ones. And
yeah, we'll figure out the Outer Worlds thing later, but yeah, I think it's part of the ones that could possibly get into the top 100.
All right. So we have, so far, 2 more added to the list. So, also, we don't really need to talk about it. I think we all know why Fortnite is important. That's technically 101 at this point, because Randy at the last minute decided, we'll just leave it till this list and knock it off the top 10 for, 2018. So, this is the Battle Royale, not including the fort making game, a fort making single player thing. So I think for 2010, Randy, you have Plants vs. Zombies.
Yeah, one of the better mobile games out there, and I know Mark. I think
and
had
Mark
it on
too.
there,
Yeah.
It just, I mean, what a craze that thing created. The second game was awful, but the first game was so fun.
I was gonna say, like, they started off great, and then every Plants vs. Zombies game that they've come after has been utter crap, or just mystifying and like why they made it. Like those garden warfare games, like. Who asked for this? And then who asked for 2 more of them?
So Garden Warfare actually was fairly popular, though. So, I mean, it's a Team Fortress for kids. I mean, there is an audience for it.
It didn't sell that well. It only sold like 500,000 copies, and then like the second one only sold like 200,000.
Which is the one where they absolutely ruined it with like microtransactions up the wazoo.
Yeah, that was the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For the first one, I would have no objection to it being in one of the top 100 games because it was really big when it first came out, and it did. I mean, it lasted for several years before they kind of ruined the franchise. But
yeah, I'm still pissed that Plants vs. Zombies 2 isn't on like a PC platform or a console, or the microtransactions are cut out.
So, do you think that's because EA bought out PopCap, and that's
completely.
Why it got ruined?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. I think that has everything to do with EA buying up PopCap because that's when they started trying to exploit everything.
Yeah, I'm sure they were like, you have to make this game has to make, $20 million, in a year, and that's the only way they could figure out how to do it.
Well, and I think one thing that also helped Plants vs. Zombies, originally it came out on the PC before it ever came out on anything mobile.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, if Plants vs. Zombies 2 was on PC, I'd be a lot more happy about it.
Well, I think another genre that we perhaps are missing is like that traditional strategy game. We have some strategy RPGs. Mark has Civilization 5. I have StarCraft 2, which at least 2 of the StarCraft 2 expansions.
Yeah, I had StarCraft 2 on one of my lists also.
Yeah, I mean, Legacy of the Void is what it is, but Heart of the Swarm and Wings of Liberty were great. Not to mention, again, before we had all this revolution in esports, StarCraft 2 was one of those standard bearers that kind of helped lead it to become what it is. And, I think also Heart of the Swarm had one heck of a story as well. I think that the sad thing is, by the time you got to Legacy of the Void, it had wrapped up so well that it's like, what was there really left to tell at that point? And it took so long to...
the whole 3-game thing didn't do them any favors because the game was like, by the time it was finished, it was like 7 years old or something. It's like, huh?
And I think they also pissed a lot of people off by doing it that way.
Yeah. I felt like they were like kind of nickel and diming people to an extent.
I mean, but wasn't like just Wings of Liberty as big as StarCraft 1 and Brood War combined, or?
No, it was StarCraft 1, but also in StarCraft 1 you had all 3 races in a campaign.
Right.
Or, in one story, not just one race and all 3,
Yeah, I think people would have probably preferred 3 shorter campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
In one game over these, like, bloated individual, like, we've got to blow this up to be a full game for each campaign thing.
And a lot of missions in all the StarCraft 2s were like, here's a new mission, here's like one more unit, and that's it. And I was like, this is kind of padding this out a little, isn't it?
That said, though, StarCraft 2 was really notable in the esports space for a good long while. So I think as far as being an important game, it should probably go on this list.
You want to say anything about Civilization 5?
I think it's the best Civilization game. I don't.
You are dead wrong.
I hate 6. I haven't played 4.
4 is the best Civilization game, and 5 represents a huge step back from 4 in my mind.
You should play 6 then, because then you'd really hate it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I fell off that series after 5. I mean, I'm done with that. But just everything they changed about, the religion, the way religion works, the way that cultural markers work, the way that politics systems work.
In basic Civ 5, they have no religion.
Exactly, they took it out. It was a major part of 4.
Well, no, when they added it back in like the 5 expansions and the 6, it becomes like super overpowered and really annoying.
Yeah, the expansions don't do that game any favor either. Like, you'd think, okay, they're going to do what they do with every Civ, where they're gradually patching back in the stuff that people were missing.
They were, like, taking shit out, and that's what, like, really irked me.
Okay.
Like, why are you fucking up the cultural, like, the artist unit? Like, the special ability of that was, like, you can expand your borders, like, when you just use it. Well, and they, like, changed it to, like, to be something really dumb and different. And I'm like, wait, what? I don't care about getting a great work.
If Civilization 4 did not exist, I would be okay with Civ 5 making this list, but it just represents such a step down for me.
Also, Civ 5 or Civ 4 can't be on this list because it's too old. So,
well, I know it's too old, but I'm just saying the existence of Civ 4 as a relative benchmark for Civ 5, in my mind, disqualifies Civ 5 because Civ 5 is not anywhere as good.
Also, I
well balanced.
Well, I have tried to play Civ 4 once, like off and on, and it's real hard. It's a lot harder to get into.
Well, of course. I mean, it's an older game, so the interface is not as refined.
Yeah. So I think like Civ 5, they do a lot better.
But calling Civ 5 the best Civilization game is insane. I mean, what about Civilization 2?
What, from 1996?
Well, yeah, that's still regarded as probably the best one overall.
Was Gandhi a bigger dick in that one as well?
Gandhi's always been a dick.
If you separate that out away from the context of what y'all were talking about, that sounds so bad.
Thankfully, anyone listening to the video game podcast knows what I'm referring to.
I never really played much Civilization, but even I know when I hear somebody talking about how much of a dick Gandhi was, they're talking about Civilization.
Yeah.
I should put that like at the beginning of the show or something. Feel like, what the hell? Okay,
well,
so
I mean, I would say Civ 5.
That would require editing.
There's only one of the 4X game on this list that will have even less support than this. So, if you want to have at least one representative game on there, it should be Civ 5. It's not going to be Gal Civ 3 or Endless Legend.
Crusader Kings 2 is going to be my pick for if you're going to pick a strategy game.
But not a 4X
game. I'd throw Stellaris out there just because the mod community helped really make the base game is good, but there are so many different mods for it that you will never get bored of that game if you play it.
I will agree with that. And I mean, my Crusader Kings 2 argument is along similar lines because that one also has a mod community that has done insane things with that game.
All right, so you guys in the strategy sphere, y'all got to pick one here.
When was Stellaris? Which year was that? Was that 2010?
2016.
Oh, it's 2016. Oh, we'll get to that
later.
So yeah, I would say my argument is I think we can cut Civ 5 because there'll be a couple of once we get to later years there'll be better strategy games on our lists.
Okay.
All right. I mean, I'm trying to separate the strategy RPG and the traditional strategy game. So, if you wanted one strategy game in the traditional sense on the list, y'all can go ahead and pick one out of that whole whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with StarCraft 2 over Civ 5.
Is that what we're choosing? Of course.
No, they're not the same game at all. Like, one is a strategy RTS and one is a 4X game, like turn-based economy game, essentially.
Well, yeah, but if we're choosing between those, regardless of the nuance of genre, StarCraft 2 is the way better game.
Okay. So, Randy put a star or something by StarCraft 2. And Deadly Premonition so far. So, and Fallout New Vegas. So, those are the three that so far we are carrying over.
Don't worry. I don't know if you saw on our Facebook thing. I created a spreadsheet. I got it going on over here.
Okay, I can't look at 5 different things at once. So, if you're good with handling that, then cool.
I got it. I got you.
Mark, go ahead and... I always think of Darksiders 2 as the best Darksiders game, but you are listing Darksiders 1 here.
Oh, I only listed because it started the franchise. I mean, Darksiders 2 is a better game, but Darksiders 1 is like the genesis of it. like, you know, the first one has a lot of weird shit in it, especially with those stupid combat trial rooms or puzzles or whatever. But I think it's just a overall good Zelda clone, and no one ever did that before.
Okami says hi.
I mean, that's a 40-hour long game that is not. It's Zelda-like, and Zelda ripped it off later on, but they're not quite the same thing.
Different kind of Zelda, but 3D Dot Game Heroes says hi too.
That was the same year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3D Dot Game Heroes in the same year.
And it would have made the top 100. I love that game, but it's not.
I would love
top 100.
3D Dot Game Heroes to be on this list.
That was 2009, so nope.
Oh.
Was it then? I don't think it would have made it anyway. I just love that game, but
I love that game too. That game is awesome.
Wish they'd make another one.
I know, right? Like, why? I wonder if like an indie developer hasn't thought about making a smaller, like, sequel to that or something.
Well, hey, it's From Software. Get on it, people. Quit making the stupid Dark Souls games.
Is that really From Software made that?
It is. That's why
it was From Software in a company called Silicon Studio, but...
Wow. I had no idea. Yeah,
well,
stop
there
making
you go.
Dark Souls. Now, you know what? I wasn't a big Dark Souls fan anyways, because it's just not my genre, but now I'm in Mark's camp. Screw Dark Souls. It's awful. It's ruining video games, because we haven't gotten a 3D Dot Game Heroes 2 because of it. There you go.
Oh,
see my face.
Now Randy's about as bad as Greg Miller with Patapon 2, so...
And they also killed off the Armored Core franchise.
I wish I had Greg Miller's life. Jesus Christ.
So, I just
think it's like, it's not a great game, and we can take it off this list, but I mean, they really did copy that 3D Zelda game that people really wanted out of, like, Brutal Legend, and they never got. So it's something.
Well, that's because they changed Brutal Legend about halfway through, and it's not the same game.
That RTS thing was supposed to be that was the genesis of Brutal Legend, and they built a Ocarina thing around it, and it's like, huh? So,
they did it the wrong way.
So fun as innovative ideas.
So, yeah, I'm gonna make my case for. I kind of said a lot of the basis of it when we talked about this in 2010 with the top tens, but to me, if you're looking at like your, basically the last gasp of when music games was sort of still relevant, Rock Band 3 brought out an entirely new peripheral that added so much to that game. Unfortunately, the bottom fell out because MTV kind of just said we're out of the video games business and didn't want to support it anymore. And obviously, people were kind of tired of buying peripherals at that point. So that's another thing. But I mean, for what it did for the genre to add in the pro guitar thing, which I think if you really try to play, you're not going to learn every single thing that you're going to do in playing a guitar, but I think you could learn the basics and actually have fun be using that pro controller, and it's it's different than, and also you can actually learn some piano, also learning that using that piano controller. So
yeah, it's the closest that you can come, right? Like when you play it on the hardest difficulty, you're basically just playing songs.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So I agree with you. I think it's the last great game of that genre, and a great way to kind of. It's an end of an era, but man, what an end!
What are you talking about, man? You got Rock Band 4.
No, that's not real to me.
I still give them a lot of credit for being able to carry over all that DLC. And that's
the only thing I give them credit for.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I love the
character creator sucks now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The graphics seem like like Rock Band 3 looks better than Rock Band 4. I don't know what the hell happened.
They don't have MTV's money behind them.
Right.
So that's kind of what happened. I mean,
I remember they're trying to kickstart Rock Band 4 onto PC. Or they're trying to make a big out of it and like failed spectacularly.
Yeah, because at that point, Rock Band 4 was at its lowest point when they tried to do that. So
yeah, they were asking for like 500 grand. They got like 27 or 28. And it's like, wow.
they had to make an expansion pass in order to add online to it, and even then, it's still not. It took them forever to make it to where you could actually matchmake well and everything else. It was a chore to play online for a while, and I mean, obviously, I don't play it that much anymore. But, I mean, it's still cool that they still have DLC coming out for it and all that stuff. I mean, I'm glad it's there for people that want to have it, but obviously it's in the dying days, and if somebody even talks about a Rock Band 5 for the next-gen consoles, I think I'll totally be shocked at that point.
Yeah, I've completely fallen off that thing, and I'm one of those people who has thousands of dollars worth of songs and the Logitech wooden guitar, so, I used to be really hardcore about it, but I know it's kind of Rock Band 3 was as I said, it was the last hurrah in my mind, and a great game. I think it deserves to be on this list. I'll totally support you on that.
All right, so let's move on to 2011. One that several of us have on here is Witcher 2. So Jens,
yeah, I mean,
why
it's
Witcher
a great
2?
Witcher game.
Better than Witcher 3.
No, I mean, I would say it wouldn't rank. Once we do our top 100, I don't think it's going to rank anywhere near Witcher 3. I don't think it's as good a story. It doesn't hang. It's not as coherent. It kind of jumps all over the place sometimes. Like some of the, but there are some really kind of good branching things. I mean, like you really have to play that game at least twice to like see all the notable content, because there's like a part where basically like the campaign completely changes based on one decision. So that stuff's neat. The combat is a lot rougher and more unforgiving than Witcher 3, and generally it's less polished. The map is really bad, but man, it's the one, right? As far as only PC people played Witcher 1. Witcher 2 was really what brought the series into the mainstream on consoles, and it was a remarkable technical achievement on consoles too. I mean, it's still, you can boot that 360 version of Witcher 2 up on your Xbox, and it looks gorgeous. So, I mean, it's really held up in a lot of ways. And as I said, it's just a really good Witcher game.
All right. So that seems to be the leading one for 2011. Randy, you also have Rayman Origins, and so does Mark.
Yeah, I think it's the best Rayman game. Great platformer. I know they did it again with Legends.
I would say Legends is better, but I think Rayman Origins is a good starting point.
And just all of the levels that they threw in that thing, and you could play it anywhere. It's super colorful, and for somebody that really hated the original Rayman games, it made me fall in love with the series. I don't know if it makes the top 100, but I wanted to give it a shout out.
I mean, I would probably have Rayman Legends on or on more, just because of its music levels.
Yeah, we can do Legends instead of Origins. That's fine with me.
WWE All Stars is one that I almost selected as well.
And I did select.
Yeah.
Because it's the only good wrestling game in the past decade and a half.
He isn't wrong, folks. Because it's just absolutely fun.
Yeah, it's like it's an arcadey fighting game. Like, it's not like the old WrestleMania game or like Yokozuna's like blowing wind out of his ass at people and, as a special attack, but it's close enough.
I mean, and they have the like Def Jam Vendetta type special moves and finishers and stuff like that, and it's
exaggerated in the way you want a WWE game to be, not like this realistic sim game that they keep trying to do, and it sucks always.
Well, now you could probably make the case that Visual Concepts just doesn't care.
Well, I mean, they don't care, and THQ didn't care except for this one time. So
well, THQ cared because I felt like there was actually wrestling fans that were behind some of the people behind the big positions at THQ. It's just Yuke's perhaps wasn't, the best at doing that engine. And then it's funny to hear that Yuke's actually had made a different wrestling game, and then once 2K found out, they dismissed them because they were actually trying to fix the problems.
I mean, yeah, if you have a game engine that has like some errors in it, one year, and then the next year you have no time to fix it, and the errors just get worse, then the game is going to be worse. That's not a huge surprise, and it just compounded the problem over and over. So that's when you get WWE 2K20.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many people clamoring for a WWE All Stars 2, and I would be worried that nobody would really know how to do it.
They wouldn't do it, or they'd just fuck it up. I mean, the only way I could see All Stars 2 is if Midway did it, or whatever Mortal Kombat studio around now. Yeah. Like, if they did it as just a Mortal Kombat game with, John Cena as Striker, then I'd be like, all right, cool.
I mean, I still want them to make that mobile game that NetherRealm made. What it is. That would be amazing if they did that on console. But...
Yeah. I mean, you can take it off because no one else cares good for you, but it was like the last good wrestling game ever made.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made for that.
Well, except for a good WE game. Like, Fire Pro is still fine, I guess.
Yeah, Gears of War 3, for me, maybe until the most recent one, it's just, I love the way that it just ends its story. It's probably perhaps the best multiplayer of all the Gears. And, it's just, that original crew is something to be said that they're extremely memorable to the fact that they had to bring Marcus back in 4 to make people, I think, care more about introducing those new characters and everything. Which, you could say the same for what Halo suffered when they tried to take out Master Chief. But I think Gears of War 3 is perhaps the best Gears of War. And, from a total package standpoint. And, that was my case for having it on there. But perhaps not.
I mean, that's the game I put down for 2011 because I thought it did deserve some mention in the top 100 for the decade. For all the reasons that you just said.
Yeah. If you want to throw it on there, that's fine. I mean, it'll probably be the only Gears game on here, though. I mean, that's...
Sure, yes.
Yeah, that's fine, but if you're going to have one Gears game represent the series...
Except for Judgment.
Again, I wish people would just...
It gave us turret defense stuff.
Yeah, let's not talk about Judgment. I want to act like that game doesn't exist. So, alright, I think Daniel's the only one that... No, we're done with 2011. So, moving on to 2012. For me, Spelunky is a game that sometimes I still think about. I'm not a roguelike person, but, I really love the way and it has permadeath, and it's really difficult at times, but when you solve a puzzle, it makes you feel like you really accomplished something. And I love the little characters, and its art style is to me memorable in the way it handles that. I think it sets the stage for other roguelikes that come after it. Spelunky obviously comes from that series Spelunker or whatever, but Spelunky was that first game that go, okay, what is this roguelike genre? And then after that, it was like we had this explosion of roguelikes after it.
Yeah, I absolutely love Spelunky. Like you said, it's super hard, and I never get very far in it, but I always find myself going back and just trying to get a little bit farther down. Like I said, great graphically, very cutesy, and brutal. But it's so much fun. I can't stop playing it.
That being said, as well, now that we can go through and look at Diablo 3 as a whole, including all its expansions and all its add-ons and all the ways that they've made it change over the years to what it is now, I mean, they really refined that game. And they took out the auction house, which made it bad, and they added other things to the seasons and all that other stuff that makes it playable again now and everything. I mean, everybody was saying Diablo. I mean, and there probably is so many people that still say Diablo 2 is the best and whatever, but
that's true.
Diablo 3, they made Diablo 3 much more comparable to Diablo 2 after all the changes.
Yeah, and it's a huge improvement over vanilla Diablo 3, that's for sure. And while I don't love the game, I will fully admit that I have played it a ton. Maybe because it's just the most like competent and well-playing and bug-free game of that genre still. Like there are a lot of Diablo likes on various consoles, but they all have their own issues, and Diablo 3 just works really well.
And then bringing that game to console and having it work as well as it did, I think, is also a testament for that.
So just for consistency and just the level of quality that it maintains, I think it probably deserves to be there.
I agree. I mean, I actually ended up playing it more on console than the PC, just because I liked how it felt.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was such a complete change over Diablo 2, and I think that's what made everybody like it a little bit more, because once it hit the console, it felt different, and it didn't feel like it was just a bad Diablo 2 clone.
Having that role in the console version is pretty nice.
Oh yeah, that helps a lot too. That actually made the game a lot easier. You can evade things so easily in that game because of that. Also, Jens, do you want to talk about Heavy Rain because you have it in the wrong year?
Whoops. It's just it's the David Cage game, right? It's one of his best. It was really great at the time. Randy, you're a big fan as well. I feel like we've talked about Heavy Rain plenty before.
Yeah, I liked Heavy Rain. There's so many games like it now, and I do think Detroit probably ended up being a little bit better than Heavy Rain. So I don't know if we put it on there or not.
And there's a lot of good memorable moments in that game. Like the when you're cutting off your pinky, or the whole like the interrogations with the detective character are really good. Like there's a lot of good kind of there are a lot of great set pieces in that game. It doesn't all hang together in the end. Like when you get to the final revelations, you're like, oh wait, this is your twist. This is really cheap. And you can tell that there are plot strands that kind of go nowhere because there's probably things that got cut. Like there's some red herrings around maybe whatever the dad character is, the killer that doesn't go anywhere and stuff. But who doesn't love Jaden? Doesn't love Jaden with his little VR rig? That's a hell of a rig, That's all that investigation stuff is really cool. There are a lot of good, as far as like kind of taking adventure games in a new, really slick cinematic direction. I thought it was neat.
Well, there you go.
But I understand if it doesn't make it, because again, there's a lot of games that do this now, and it's not as special.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to give it the whole, it was one of the first vote, but I mean, I think you can only do that. That's the problem I think we're going to run into with this, is like, how many times are we going to be like, how many games are we going to have on there because it was the first, or it was the, I think when you're talking about it really defined the genre, or it made those games continue, I think that's a case that you made, but...
Yeah, like I have to make I was going to make that same argument about Dear Esther, and I think I'm just going to cut Dear Esther because we've already got Everybody Goes to the Rapture on the list, which is way better. But Dear Esther was kind of the progenitor. So I guess I'm just going to strike that out because that's the same kind of scenario.
Yeah, so Mark of the Ninja is a great freaking game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the first good Clay game. And I think it's a really great gameplay, like pixel perfect, and at least a lot of fun.
Anybody else enjoy Mark of the Ninja? Before we...
Apparently not.
Yeah, I mean...
No, I played it. It was good. It was a good stealth action thing. It played really well. It was slick. Great art style.
Tokyo Jungle is just... There's nothing else like Tokyo Jungle.
It's amazing. It's an amazing game. I never beat it, but I had an incredible time with it.
No one did. I mean, I would severely. I mean, if they made an HD just version, or God forbid a sequel, like that'd be supreme. I don't know why they don't.
So the people who don't, perhaps weren't, big in games at that time in 2012, explain to people what Tokyo Jungle.
It's a post-apocalyptic survival simulator where you are one of a variety of animals running wild in, I guess, Tokyo?
No, it's actually Okinawa.
Okinawa, sorry.
No.
But it's basically, it is like a roguelike where, you start out with one character class. You start out as like a little, like Pomeranian.
Yeah, there's two different types of animals, either herbivores or carnivores.
Right.
And so the dog, Pomeranian, is a carnivore, but like the deer, like the starting class, and it's an herbivore.
Yeah, and being an herbivore plays totally different because there's different resources. Being an herbivore is actually way harder because resources are much more scarce, and you still have to worry about predators, which you can't defend yourself against well. But if you make it far enough, like as you unlock new areas and things, you'll also unlock new animals. So it really becomes kind of about, like, there's a checklist of objectives that it gives you, where it's like kind of make it to this area or birth, a brood of new, like mate. It's all these kind of milestones that it makes you hit, and as you're hitting those milestones, it unlocks more and more content. And there's some good. And there's the funny thing is that they also did a DLC where you were a Japanese salaryman, which is very funny. who has to scrounge to survive, just like the dogs do.
And there's also like a Sony robot dog that you can also play as.
Oh yeah, I never did that. But yeah, I really loved that game. I thought it was super addictive, and it was extremely stressful at times. And it did have, it has that roguelike tension where once you get to a certain point, you start behaving like you're balancing like being super duper careful about your every move with the fact that constantly your hunger gauge is going up.
And there's also like a poison gas you have to like watch out for and like climb on top of buildings to get away from.
Oh yeah, you have to get a high ground sometimes. There's all sorts of things that will kill you. I mean, it's a hard game, but it's pretty remarkable conceptually. And I think that game just sprung from like some design school challenge. Like it wasn't even like it was just like a thing that somebody made in school to begin with, and it turned into this like as a proof of concept kind of thing, and it turned into a real game. So it's neat on that level too.
Too bad Sony will never touch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imported the Japanese version of it like a year or two before it came out here, and I was bummed because I realized that I couldn't figure out the objectives well enough to actually get very far. So I was happy when it came out digitally.
Oh, Pinball Arcade. Mark, I know you're the pinball man.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive for a while. They kept up with it for like a good 4 or 5 years, although I think the 360 version got all fucked up because the publisher went under. I mean, I still play it almost every week on my PS4, but now it's a shell of a game that they lost all the licenses to, so they haven't updated it in like about a year, and it's basically done. And it's depressing as hell.
And I remember when Syndicate came out, you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good. So. I mean, it was the last good. What is it? What is the company?
Machine. Oh, it's not Machine Games. It was. They became Machine Games, right?
Yeah. What is it? Starbreeze game. That's right.
Ah, yes, Starbreeze. Yes.
A great shooting, good voice acting, a decent enough story. But I imagine
really good multiplayer, like excellent co-op kind of challenge levels.
I mean, it probably didn't get the response it deserved, or like because it got pretty tepid. It got okay reviews, but it got like pretty tepid sales because EA released it for some. Well, they owned it, but I mean, they didn't support it at all. But yeah, it was a good game.
Except for, Giant Bomb really championed it. I think Jeff was like a huge fan of it.
Yeah, he was like the one big fan of it in the world.
Well, I just remember not knowing anything about Binary Domain, and then it showed up on PS Plus one day, and I was like, what the hell is this? And
isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Man, that game. Firstly, amazing bonkers. It's like a Blade Runner type story about what makes us human. These android, like it eventually kind of turns to like an android human hybrid thing, or androids having children kind of thing. Actually, a lot of it. But you know what? Binary Domain hit on a lot of themes that Blade Runner 2049 hit on eventually, way before. But yeah, it's a fantastic story, fantastic characters. I love the shooting. I love the dismemberment mechanic. I love all the little bits and pieces that fly off the robots. Who doesn't love Big Bo? Big Bo is a great character. That French robot.
Memorable.
He's really great. But really, that game just, man, it gets emotional. Like once you get to like the last couple of big revelations in that story, it's like a heart-wrenching game in the end.
My counter to that I played the PC version, which sucked ass.
Oh, I played a little bit of the PC version. It seemed fine.
It didn't recognize my 360 controller, so I was like, press button 11 to shoot, and I'm like,
okay, I don't know what's going on with your on your computer, but like it was fine.
It didn't have Xbox 360 gamepad. Like it could use gamepad, but it didn't have the button prompts.
They may have patched it in, because I remember playing it with a gamepad on PC like years after the fact, because I'd already stowed my 360 away, and I was like, I want to play Binary Domain again. So,
and it also couldn't recognize my microphone for like their voice command bullshit.
But I mean, it's a Yakuza team game, so it's kind of cool that the Yakuza team went and made it like a really great shooter somehow, when Dead Souls was such trash. I mean, Dead Souls is not a trash. I don't hate Dead Souls, but it's like not a good shooter. So it's amazing to me that Binary Domain is actually a good shooter. But I wanted to make a case for it just because it's one of my favorite games of all time, and I just remember it being such a gigantic flop. Like, it sold basically nothing when it came out. It sold like 10,000 copies in America, like first week or something ridiculous like that. Basically, it has built a fan base over time, but it's always been like a super underappreciated game, and I would love to put it on this list.
Well, Randy, I don't know how you feel about that. Are we putting it on those, passing it through, or?
Well, that's up to you guys. I don't care. I've never played it, so I don't know anything about it.
I'll just pass it through. We'll figure it out when we get to the... So, we talked about Sleeping Dogs. It barely didn't make the top 10 for its year. But I feel like it was almost there, and I think it has a lot more love now because of the studio closing. And I think people really want it to like get another shot. But I mean, for its time to have, yes, you could easily call it like GTA Hong Kong, but I think I love the story elements in that game. I love just being able to walk around and kind of do whatever, and like the fighting mechanics were really good in that game. I love the counter system. I had a lot of fun playing that game. So, and it's not your typical like GTA setting either. So I think it kind of set itself apart, and it just really flew under the radar when it came out. And I think Square Enix tried too late to give it was it a DLC or whatever? They completely changed that Triad Wars or whatever the heck that was supposed to be.
That was like a MMO or like a online multiplayer game thing that sucked.
Yep. So that didn't help it either. Instead of trying to keep improving Sleeping Dogs, they just made it something it shouldn't have been. And
I mean, I would support it because it's like the game a lot. Like I like it a lot more than most GTA games.
And I just wanted to bring out Counter-Strike Global Offensive because similar to StarCraft 2, when you talk about the PC arena, when you talk about like early esports, early like multiplayer-ish things, like Counter-Strike Global Offensive like was the game. Like I remember growing up and I don't think I wouldn't meet somebody that would say, "Oh, are you going to play Counter-Strike? Who doesn't? Who's not playing Counter-Strike?" Like it was the game everybody talked about for quite a while in that year and beyond. So, I think, I guess for being a first one of those, and it's still a thing today. Maybe not as vociferously as it was back then, but it's certainly, in certain sectors, it is still a huge game.
I would say it's still not good as 1.6.
Fair enough. I know you sort of mentioned Crusader Kings too, Jens. I don't know if you...
Oh, yeah. That's probably the deepest game I've ever played in terms of systems. I mean, it's a remarkable achievement, the amount of stuff that goes on under the hood in this game. Like, so this is basically, it's a historical strategy game that, simulates all manner of medieval wars. I mean, there's all these different historical settings that you can recreate, but also, of course, it gives you all manner of custom modes. But really, this is all about kind of managing your, like, oh, I'm going to just run Ireland in the 1500s and, like, run this legacy, this, kingdom. And you're dealing with your heirs and like all these internal political struggles where you're dealing with the clergy and spies, and you've got to have a line of succession that you're trying to manage. And there's all these, I mean, the number of factors that can come into this. And I realize that it's a game. It's very dense. It's hard to get into. It's all menus. But I think the reason why it is so addictive and has had such staying power for people is just because the amount of emergent behavior that can come out of this game is insane. It almost has kind of the same appeal that something like Dwarf Fortress has, where I'm sure you've seen like people sharing anecdotes of insane like soap opera type conflicts that are emerging between the various characters in a Crusader Kings game, when the backstabbing and the like, oh, I'm gonna force my kids to marry now because it's the only, or like all this stuff. And then you add to that the mod scene that has taken Crusader Kings and just completely blown it up, where there's like, okay, there's just install this mod and you get basically every nuance of the world of Game of Thrones simulated in Crusader Kings, which is, of course, a perfect fit for that game because it is. I mean, if you want to do the War of the Roses in Crusader Kings, you absolutely can. There's all these user-made campaigns for it. The amount of I mean, if you want to pick like, hey, you just can play like one PC strategy game for the rest of your life, I actually think I might pick that one just because it seems like there's infinite content to be had there.
It's not fun.
That is, I mean, that's entirely a matter of opinion. It depends on what you care about. If you're the kind of person who will listen to, Dan Carlin talk about
everyone does
the War
that.
of the Roses for 8 hours or something, or if you're a history buff, I could see this. This is which I'm not. I'm not pretending to be a huge history buff or anything. I just like good games. But I'm thinking that like there's a certain type of audience, I think, for which that is an irreplaceable game.
They're not people that should be counted upon or acknowledged.
So what's your how much have you played of it, Mark? And what's your issue?
I looked at like the first I played like an hour. And I was like, yeah, it's all menus. I'm done. There's nothing to do.
You can't...
I mean, I could play Anno if I wanted that crap.
That's like saying I read the first 50 pages of War and Peace and it was really boring.
Yeah.
It's idiotic.
How long should I play the game then? 80 hours? And be bored off my ass?
Okay, you wouldn't judge a Civilization game after 1 hour.
You could.
No.
I knew after the first hour that Beyond Earth sucked ass.
Well, that's an entirely different. I'm not going to defend Beyond Earth, but I think just I feel like your opinion of Crusader Kings 2 is not really valid.
I mean, between the two, I would rather have. Go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you play Paradox games, they get very in-depth with everything. Even Stellaris, which is the sci-fi setting, it's a different game, but you get very in-depth with everything. And so, I mean, I think it's more, it has to appeal to you. That type of game has to appeal to you, but you know what you're getting when you go in if you see that it's a Paradox game.
Yeah, and this to me, of the ones, I mean, I've played King Arthur, the role-playing war. I've played a couple of them, and this is definitely my favorite. I'm not like a huge Paradox fanboy, but like Crusader Kings 2 hit me in the right way.
I mean, between the two, I'd probably rather put Stellaris on, because I think that has a slightly easier ramp to get into, and I like sci-fi more than historical crap.
But you could say it's all menus about a lot of PC strategy games.
That's why I wanted Civ 5, because it actually has some gameplay.
Oh my God, Civ 5 is not anywhere the game Crusader Kings 2 is. Don't get me. I mean, that's ridiculous.
I think
it's just another Civ, and it's an inferior one.
Go on, Daniel. You were making a point before he interrupted.
I was just going to say, I haven't gotten to play much of Crusader Kings 2, but from the little bit that I have played and that I've seen, and I've watched a lot of videos of it being played, I definitely do think it's a game that I would enjoy if I could sit down and dedicate the time to it like I need to. But I would put that above Civ 5.
Yeah, but then you say you put Stellaris above that as well?
Yeah, but I think Crusader King should be considered for the top 100. I don't know if the way everything works out, if it would make it, but I think it should be considered.
Especially if we're talking historical significance or notability. I think it's very notable.
All right, fine.
All right, I'm lost there. So, all right, let's move on.
I'd like Stellaris on the list as well. If we can put both of those.
Okay, fair enough. Remember, the more stuff we put on, the more stuff we got to figure out to take off. So
there's another game on my list further down that would beat out Stellaris at least, so we can have that battle later on.
I mean, I'd be happy to cut some things. I could cut Witcher 2. I mean, since we're going to have Witcher 3 on the list,
we'll get to that maybe at the end. Let's get through this because we still have a lot of games to get to, and if we start talking about cutting things, we'll never get there. Sorry, we're like already an hour in, so we're just now at 2013. Obviously, Luigi's Mansion 3 is in on the 2019 side. A lot of people kind of tend to forget Dark Moon because it's on 3DS, and you have represented here, Jens, so...
that's really the only reason I wanted to bring it up. I just think it's a really great Luigi's Mansion game that is super overlooked. So that I don't expect it to make the list. I just wanted to mention it.
I heard that got kind of shaky reviews when it came out.
I also remember hearing that as well.
I liked it a lot. But, of course, it was the first Luigi's Mansion game I played in a very long time at that point.
Well, it was only the second one. Like, it's not like there were.
Well, yeah, but
others.
Since the GameCube, there was a big gap in between them. I think the biggest thing with Dark Moon is that it's just too long, and it gets kind of repetitive and grindy in its last like 10 hours or so. Like it's a 40-hour game, so I could see taking it off. I'm sure I haven't played Luigi's Mansion 3 yet. I really want to. I'm sure it's probably better, but I just thought it deserved a mention. Is all.
All right, if you want to talk about comeback story of the entire decade, Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn has that beat and then some for Final Fantasy XIV to come out and be the absolute trash that it was. Then Realm Reborn comes out and absolutely makes you forget that thing existed, and then also for them to continue to iterate with those expansion packs and improve the game constantly. It has an amazing soundtrack, which, yes, you expect that from Final Fantasy games, but it's great. And, I've only played some of it, Like, when I had it for a free trial or whatever, so I can't say too much from experience, but just all the stuff that game has gone through to continue. Every expansion seems to just improve upon that story, and I mean, if you wanted to like take that as a whole, you could really say it's one of the best Final Fantasy games. It's just obviously hard to play because it's an MMO, but again, you could make the case that of this decade, when you think about one MMO, that is the game you think about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about it, but it should be on here because it is the only, like, at least competitor to WoW that people are talking about. Because it's not like anyone gives a shit about Elder Scrolls Online.
Well, yeah. Also, I didn't Elder Scrolls Online go free to play.
Yeah, but most of them do. So.
Well, Gone Home also was... It's short, and you could make the case that there are games that have come after it that do this better. But you could also say that Gone Home's story is a unique one, and the way that it tells it, and it's that first of those walking sims that I think kind of grabbed people and made people question, is this a game? What is this? But man, it's making you feel things. And, I
absolutely loved Gone Home. And it was the same thing what you were just saying, because it was the first kind of game like that, so it was a different experience. And the story is fantastic on Gone Home. But I do think that because that has become a whole genre, that there are games out there that do everything that Gone Home did, but better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should get consideration just because we're not talking about like, oh, it kind of was a better one of those, or it started something that, hey, now, your 2019 Game of the Year, Death Stranding, you could, in a way, call it that. And
no, you
it
can't. That's not even close.
I'm just joking. I was just furthering that narrative.
Hey,
but,
I had Gone Home.
I had Gone Home on
You're walking around, and both games involve ghosts. What more do you want?
A lot. I want a lot more. No, I had Gone Home on my list, but I ended up taking it off as I was looking, and we have a few walking simulators that we're trying to get on this last chance thing, and some that already made it. So we can put it on there for sure, but
yeah, it's going to be difficult to get all those things on. So Mark is...
If Gone Home is not going to make it, I'm just going to strike Firewatch off, because I think Firewatch is worse than Gone Home in this regard.
Well, no, we'll put Gone Home in the consideration, but when we start actually trying to make that what's going to be the 100,
yeah,
that ending part of the 100, we have to start, really getting into minutia of things. But Mark is I think the only kind of different one here. He has Splinter Cell Blacklist, which you could make the case is the best of the Splinter Cells.
Yeah, I mean,
Conviction.
No, Blacklist. I like Blacklist more. Yeah, I mean, Jens played it. It's good. I mean, I really like the gameplay. It's one of those I actually really did like. I did play Conviction, but I didn't like it as much because it had some really annoying, stupid parts that were like monster closets, I thought. Or like, the enemies would just kind of endlessly spawn for a while. And I was like, this isn't that much fun. Yeah, I just really liked it. And it's the last Splinter Cell game also, which... I miss it.
Well, I mean, there's a chance that maybe E3 2020,
they've been saying that for the past 5 years. I mean...
It's true, yeah. But why not wait to make that big console leap, I guess.
Well, I don't think Blacklist sold that well. That was another big problem.
But they keep putting Sam Fisher into other Ubisoft things, so obviously they still care for that character.
Look for him in the new Rayman game coming soon.
And Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Fantastic game. An utterly hilarious story that is like blows Kojima out of the water in terms of insanity.
No.
the senator guy at the end is.
I do love that. I don't know if it's crazier than
like
pure Kojima, but
the kids' brains being abducted or stolen out of their heads and being put in jars.
Yeah, I will say this: I love Revengeance, and I cannot believe I forgot to put it on my list. So I fully support you on this.
I think good music. I think it actually has really good gameplay. Like it's hard to get into. It's a little weird at first because the counter system is just kind of wonky.
Yeah, the slicing is great.
Well, like once you figure it out, it just feels like natural. I really like it.
Yeah, and it's a platinum game. Combat's awesome.
It's the last game that has ever made me break a controller.
Wow. What did it for you? Really?
Hated it. I didn't. I think it's what Mark just said. I didn't give it a lot of time. I got to like the third or fourth boss, and the character and I did not want to work the same. I guess I went into it thinking Devil May Cry, and it just didn't go the way I wanted, and I didn't like it at all.
Man, I think the gameplay is awesome.
It wasn't for me.
I think it's slower and more of a thinking man's Devil May Cry. Like you really have to approach certain enemies, know how they count or know how they attack, so you can counter correctly.
If you don't like that, you might not want to do Astral Chain. You probably wouldn't like Astral Chain, because that has a lot of Revengeance in it too.
Yeah, you have to think about what you're gonna do and what.
Bayonetta is closer to the pure Devil May Cry thing, but really, I mean, Platinum I feel like they kind of can do no wrong when it comes to these games. Like I've enjoyed pretty much everything they've done in this genre, so.
And it was, I just didn't want to get into a game that was based off the worst character in the whole franchise, but.
Oh, but they make him so awesome.
What Johnny Suzuki?
No, Johnny Suzuki has a backstory at least. It's his backside.
The only really bad thing about Rising is the Jack the Ripper voice is just hilarious, unintentionally so. I think I think they were trying to be cool, but when the guy puts on that voice, it's wow, no.
So were we putting this on this list?
Yeah, let's go ahead and pass it over. All right, so now we're finally moving into 2014. I feel like I don't have to say much about this because we know what this is, and I think everybody in the world at this point knows what this is, and we completely just didn't mention it for 2014. Hearthstone is absolutely important as far as Blizzard didn't intend for Hearthstone to be anything, and then it comes out and it explodes and becomes this thing that I think people that weren't ever thought about playing a digital card game or whatever, all of a sudden everybody was playing Hearthstone, gave it a shot whether you stuck with it or not. Then they put it on mobile and it was even more of a big thing. It became its own esport and its own big deal, has tournaments and everything. Digital card games that came after Hearthstone are still trying to encapsulate Hearthstone, and they still, even though Hearthstone has obviously fallen off because the Overwatch and Fortnite and all that stuff has kind of taken a lot of that what Hearthstone had at first, but it's still going. They're still doing things for it, and there are still a lot of digital card games that are trying to hit that genie in the bottle, and they don't do it.
Not to mention that it almost led to the fall of Blizzard.
Yeah,
this past year.
Yeah, they're still milking it into the ground also.
Yeah, I mean, usually there's two sides of that coin too when it comes to that, but yeah, it's super influential for
I agree.
Things after that. Also, I would make the case that PT is equally just as important in showing that horror can be artistic, and horror can be, it doesn't have to be this, either horror porn or survival horror can be this other thing. And it's a demo, but people still talk about it today, and people still revere it, and obviously it has a big...
See, I think that's the problem with my view, is I think if that Silent Hill game came out and sucked, like we all know it would be, no one would care about it.
You don't know. You don't know it would have sucked.
It's a Silent Hill game.
It wasn't. No, but it's made by different people. It wasn't made by the people that made Silent Hill Homecoming. Yeah,
it's made by the same people who made Castlevania, Lords of Shadow.
No, it wasn't. It was made by the same people that made Death Stranding, sir. Thank you.
Like I said, it would have sucked.
I knew that was coming.
I mean, I think it's just the mystique of them canceling the game and Kojima leaving.
Well,
that's
but
why people.
some of the actual scenes in that game are freaking scary as fuck.
I don't know.
Like,
I played and beat it, and I was like, all right.
I got spooked several times playing that game. That's just me, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know as far as making the top 100. I'm right there with you. It had my list too, but yeah, it is a demo, but it's the only demo ever that has tripled the price of your PlayStation 4.
It's true.
True.
I mean,
and people still talk about it.
It
has had the biggest impact of any. Like, as far as the cultural impact of PT, I still see people pining for it. But that game could, but what it is and what it could have been.
But people still pine for like Mega Man Legends 3 or other canceled games.
They all wanted that Shenmue 3 too, and look what happened there.
Yeah,
that's what you mean. They made another Shenmue game. That's just like the Shenmue's always been.
Let's keep in mind there were always people pining for Duke Nukem Forever until it finally came out.
That is
so
that's a better.
And it was great. What are you talking about, man?
So the one thing I'll say about PT, I think it would have made the list if Kojima's plan wasn't thwarted by how hard the internet works. Because the whole point of that demo was it was supposed to take weeks to figure out that last clue, to then show that it was a Silent Hills game, and it took the internet like 2 days. And I still now they finally got it down to where it's pitch perfect, but even then they fell into it on mistake.
But people were discovering like weird things hidden in that game for years.
Yeah, I mean we're finding stuff, but as far as it showing that it was a Silent Hills reveal kind of a thing, it was supposed to be a summer-long adventure, and the internet went, no, hold on, you don't understand how all of us will play this game for 9 hours straight and just be running into walls and doing the most ridiculous things possible. And that's what I liked about it, and I think honestly, it's kind of a hint of what Death Stranding became with that whole working together and becoming community and that whole thing. Again, I don't think it's a top 100 because it is just a demo and it is one hallway, but the stuff that they did in that one hallway was fantastic.
I would still argue that even though it's a demo,
I think it's really important. I wonder how much of the lore that they had planned for Silent Hills ended up in Death Stranding. Like how much of the thing with the BTs and the other realm and I wonder how much of that stuff is from 100%. That original concept. I don't know. And I'm sure there is a level of adaptation that had to happen to make it fit into this package delivery game. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Mark's pretty right. Other than obviously they had to change a lot of it, but the fact that with the BTs and kind of that holding on to life through death, that's what Silent Hills is. It's your purgatory, and which is why I don't understand why people hated the movie. I thought it explained what the story of Silent Hills was great.
The movie changed the nature of what the cult was. That's the thing I didn't like about it. I think from an aesthetic standpoint, like it was on the mark.
Yeah.
Like it had the look.
As far as feeling went, I thought it was the best video game.
Yeah, the atmosphere is great, but yeah, I didn't like the Alice Creech character and what they changed about the nature of kind of the motivations behind the evil cult, and they didn't handle the exposition aspect of it very well. But that's a different, I still think that first Silent Hill movie is fine. The second one, not so much.
No, but yeah, okay, we can put it on the list. So that's fine. I loved it.
Octodad is also just a joy.
I just don't like these stupid simulator games, though.
Yeah, but it's not a stupid simulator. It's it's like a co-op kind of thing. But it's the best of those, right? Like it actually controls well. You can actually get things done. Controlling all the limbs individually feels really good. Like they worked out like the snappiness of like snapping your tentacles to objects and stuff works really well. Being able to, it's almost like the way that some of the snapping the way that like Untitled Goose Game does it when you're like lowering and raising your neck and focusing on different things. Like I really think they managed to take something that was in the realm of kind of weird screwing around games on Steam and like made it work as a legitimate gameplay system that was a campaign that you could finish and was fun and was just really situationally funny. Like just emergent things that happened that were hilarious.
That's what I liked the most about the game. It was funny. I laughed. I don't know how many times playing that game.
Yeah, that game was really fun playing 4-player. It's almost impossible, at least with the people I played it with. But just because they all wanted to go in different directions. But I remember we did that for one of our marathons back when I had my old podcast, and we had a lot of fun with that. And one that I saw, Jens, you had on your previous list before you cut it down. But Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. I think I don't know if it makes the list, but I just wanted to say, God, that game was fun.
This is one of the few times I watched him and Wes on the stream or whatever, and I think Randy had me try to solve a couple of the puzzles, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but this is just crazy. So
it's like reverse Space Team, whereas Space Team is all about do the things. I mean, it's similar, I guess, except that it's giving you that huge instruction manual where you have to go through and figure it out and do math and like all this stuff to narrow it down to which wire are you going to cut. A great concept for a game, great execution. I agree. I think Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is fantastic, but I don't know if it makes the makes the 100. So I had cut it preemptively when Sean told me I had too many games.
You kind of said stuff about Five Nights at Freddy's when you were trying to put it into the top 10. I don't know if you want to say anything
I never
more.
thought it should have been a top 10 as far as that year goes, but just as far as influential games, that game blew up and is huge. And I don't care if it makes the Last Chance list or not. I like the lore of that game. I like watching.
Yeah, I would say that.
Like people on YouTube try to break down all the hidden things that Scott Cawthon puts into those games. But I would say that if we did end up going the route of putting series together on our top 100, then I would fight super hard for Five Nights at Freddy's, because I think that as a whole has created a giant lore. As far as the first game goes, it was super influential and was huge for what simple of a game it was. But if we don't want to put it on the list, that's fine with me.
I mean, it has its own merch. It has its own everything. It became its own line of so many things by itself. That's something for what amounts to an indie game.
All sitting unsold in the back of the Hot Topic.
And GameStop.
And GameStop, yeah. Like GameStop couldn't get rid of those Five Nights at Freddy's pops fast enough. Like they just sat there and sat there and sat there.
You guys haven't seen my son's room. He can't buy it all, damn it.
Hey, you know what? My daughter's the same, but with LPS, so her room is all that. So
what is LPS?
I understand, Randy. Well, it was Littlest Pet Shop, and they lowered it down to just to 3 letters.
I vaguely remember hearing about that.
So, yeah, we just got. I'm gonna give props to Mark for putting an anime game on the list, and One Piece, one of my favorite animes of all time. So I'm actually downloading this game on my Switch right now. I haven't played it. So
if I could afford it again on other consoles, I'd get it. It's
it's $12 on the Switch right now.
I'll repeat what I said. It's just a really good adventure game. Like, you can play as all the characters. They all have different powers. The levels are pretty short. There's a lot of stuff to do in the town. Like a lot of side quests to do, and I just thought it was really good. I don't care about the anime. I just thought it was a good adventure game.
Listen, Sean, Mark does not have time to play One Piece again. He has to play the Vegeta Saga and another Dragon Ball game.
I have to play Monster Hunter Ice World.
Okay.
All right, yeah, Ice World.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make this list necessarily, but I thought it was a good game. That no one remembered or cared about.
Well, Endless Legends.
Yeah, this is my counter to your Civ 5 hate. This is another 4X game that's shockingly good. It looks beautiful, has a great lore to it, like the classic R4X gameplay. Like, if you don't want Civ 5 on there, that's fine, but have this on there instead then.
I'd be okay with that. The only thing I heard about that is that it was super buggy, but I know that they patched it a lot.
No, I played it. I ran into no problem. I reviewed it and I gave it like a 9.
I just remember there being a lot of controversies around like that game getting patched over and over, unless I'm confusing it with something else.
It ran fine for me. I think you would actually really like the art style because it has like a really weird but good like diorama look to it. It almost looks like the Game of Thrones like intro or like the city building sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just a fantastic game, and like way easier to get into than like endless space, which is bewildering to me.
All right, Mark, I'm gonna let you. You need to like kind of go through these fast because you have a lot of games in 2015.
Yeah, where you can see Solitaire is cool, but it doesn't need to be on there. I think City Skyline should, because it's the only city building game worth a damn in the past decade. Because SimCity.
What about City 6L?
No. And that's a 20-year-old game at this point because they just keep re-releasing it over and over.
Okay.
Project Cars is cool. Doesn't need to be on here. I thought Contradiction was neat. I don't think we really have any FMV game on here except for maybe Erica. And Rebel Galaxy was cool, but
not a 2015 game though.
What was it?
That's a re-release, isn't it?
No, Rebel Galaxy.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Rogue Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, Rebel Galaxy was like space. It's like the ship crap from Assassin's Creed 4, but in space.
Right. So is Rebel Galaxy Outlaw like the sequel or something?
No, huh?
Is Rebel Galaxy Outlaw a sequel?
Yeah, it's a sequel, but it's a different game because the first one is like all third person, and this one like it's in first person, and you can actually like fly around. Like the first one is like very much on. It's not a 3D game. It's on a 2D plane. This one, like Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, I haven't played it because I'm not on fucking Steam. It's an epic bastards. But I will play it when it comes on Steam. It looks fantastic. Like it fulfills that Firefly need that we all have.
It's a launcher. It's a launcher.
It's unneeded. I already have 4 of them. I don't need a 5th.
Oh, you have 4. What at that point? What does one more have anything to do with?
3 of them installed because of the one. It's not like I installed them for the hell of it. It's like, oh, I need this stupid thing to run Assassin's Creed 2. I guess I'll download it from Steam.
All right, so.
Well, one thing I'll say about Rebel Galaxy, it was fun, but I prefer Elite Dangerous just because of the wide open sandbox nature of it.
That'd be fine. Like, I'm not married to Rebel Galaxy that much, but I mean, having like one space game would be nice on this list.
All right.
And it's never going to be Star Citizen because that's never coming out. So.
Oh.
Okay, so the only one to take off this list then is City Skylines?
I'd take City Skylines personally.
Okay.
All right, so the other... Splatoon is a game that I wish I had played. I had a Wii U for like basically a hot minute. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah. But isn't Splatoon 2 better?
It's about it. They're about on par. But I mean, Splatoon, it took the kind of Team Fortress competitive team formula and made it appealing for a whole new audience that had never played that kind of game before, and it blew up. It was huge, and it's just super fun, super well designed, great art style, really well balanced gameplay. Just everything about it is just first class. Just exactly the level of quality and polish that you'd expect from Nintendo, but turned towards a genre that you don't expect from them, and really great.
I mean, I would be happy with Splatoon being on here, but I think we should pick one or the other, like one or two.
Oh yeah, definitely. Which one are we talking?
Already on our list?
No, we didn't have it.
No.
Make it. So you want to put Splatoon 2?
Yeah, I would say first one's fine. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think the first one is more historically notable than 2. I think they're both.
Yeah, but
about
I
the
think
same
what
level of
Splatoon 2
quality.
does for the story, like adding a story mode, I think is also important because they could have just not done that at all, but they really
Well,
tried.
the first one had a story or had a campaign, I think.
Yeah, but the
It's
DLC
kind
that
of not a real campaign. It's
Yeah.
like how Titanfall had a campaign.
Okay, one of those good ones.
well, the other ones, these are all kind of the big games of 2015 that we kind of didn't. We tried to get Kerbal Space Program on the list.
I mean,
didn't.
I would say if you want to put it on an importance list, that should be fine, or that's
Yeah,
good for it.
Yeah, let's just
Yeah.
do it.
I know Daniel really liked it.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, Rainbow Six Siege is another one of those games that it's a Ubisoft special, comes out, it's bad, and then they improve it, and it becomes this huge thing that is still having operators made today. In fact, it's getting so hard to make new operators that they're like happy that there's a new next generation so they can keep making them. It's an absolute cash cow for Ubisoft. What they couldn't really do with the Division very well, especially Division 2, they've somehow been able to do with Six Siege, where they do bring in extra content that helps and makes that game continue to be viable and a big deal for people. And I know a lot of people that that's the game that they play almost every day. It's crazy to think that when that game came out, it was supposed to be a how to keep robbers from getting in your house or whatever. It was supposed to be this short thing, and then all of a sudden it just blew up to became a wholly different game when it finally came out. And Life is Strange, which you could make a case is a better done version than what Telltale tried to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dramatically, yes. I mean, that should be on here.
It's the Telltale formula, but good. And more of a proper adventure game still. I mean, it's got a little bit more depth, I think.
Well,
than
Life is Strange 1 or
usual.
2?
1.
1?
I haven't
Okay.
actually played 2 even.
No one played 2.
I wouldn't say no one. There's quite a few people that enjoy
But
it.
I
It's
think
just, you don't hear it
Life-
talked about.
Life is Strange also surprised me because it was from the Remember Me people, which is a game that I really wanted to enjoy. Conceptually was way behind, but I just in execution didn't like. So the fact that they delivered on Life is Strange was a really pleasant surprise.
I like Remember Me quite a bit, but I mean, yeah, it is a completely different game.
And
So,
when they went on to make Vampire, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can move on to 2016, and we got some big games here to discuss. And the probably number one of those is Pokemon Go. I think if we're talking about influential games, yes, technically there's probably a zillion other mobile games that you could come out and go, oh, they're more important, they're, if you're talking about mobile games and make people want to play them and all that, maybe not Pokemon Go, but I think to have it tied to a franchise and then have it explode to the point where it became a phenomenon. Like, people were outside in hordes. Like, you would think that there is some chaotic thing going on. It's people all chasing Pokemon on a screen. Like, it's insane, So, we'll have to obviously discuss it when it comes to the 100 or whatever, but definitely got to pass it on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And No Man's Sky is another one of those that started out with a really bad reputation because it made a lot of promises and didn't deliver on them, but they have slowly repaired that and continued to add on to it, and it is a completely different game now than it was in 2016.
It's
And
great in
yeah,
VR as well. With
So-
the PSVR, it's really good.
Is it actually good now?
Yeah.
Like, is there more to it than just collecting stuff and upgrading your equipment.
Didn't they add some kind of an actual like campaignish mode now?
Yeah, there's a big story mode. You can actually play with other people now. You build bases. I mean, there's a lot more that you can do in it than you could at launch. And you can actually do it with other people as opposed to being on your own.
I just don't think I've ever been angrier or more disappointed with a video game than No Man's Sky. It's like my most loathed game, and I have not seen any of the new content because I just, deleted it and said, screw this forever. So I'm pretty, adamantly, but I mean, I guess if you're saying it's a completely different game now, then it's difficult for me to argue, but it pains me to see it on any kind of best of anything lists.
The other reason why I'm willing to put it on there, all of these upgrades that they've done to fix the game are free.
Right, yeah.
No DLC to fix it. There's no expansion. It's, hey, the game was bad. We've slowly improved it, and all of this stuff that makes it a better game is free.
I was going to say, I even thought the launch version was okay enough. Like, it wasn't, the deepest thing, but, I mean, I still had fun just going around to different planets and naming shit.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a bad game at launch, but they didn't fulfill the promises that they made in development. And then I think there was also...
I don't even care about the promises. It was not fun to play. It was just an inventory management, and I thought it was a nightmare, both in terms of the interface and just the pacing was terrible. The graphics were really disappointing.
I mean, aside from the graphics, you can make the same argument for Death Stranding.
No, Death Stranding
come on now, really?
Death Stranding has good menus.
Are we gonna go to this every time?
Yes.
I think we are.
It's either Death Stranding or Dark Souls.
Death Stranding has a really interesting inventory management where everything actually takes up a physical space on your backpack, and it doesn't just look like the Destiny inventory repurposed to be it was like the Destiny style with a little fake cursor that you move around, and then you have to Tetris all your objects around in your back. Oh, I hate it.
It took its cues from another great game, Resident Evil 4.
Well, we talked about Resident Evil games last night, so you know where I stand on that. I don't actually like Resident Evil very much.
Oh, boo. Alright, so...
The
Division...
I have to unfriend Jens on Facebook. Just one second.
Sorry. I mean, Resident Evil to me is kind of like Halo, where I play them because they're there and they're big and they're in the conversation.
All good, man. All good.
Don't let five just put a sour taste in my mouth, but I love the other ones.
Five is his favorite game. So it's
Yeah, Five's the best one. That's actually a decent co-op shooter.
I was talking about Halo. I wasn't talking about Resident Evil.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, yeah. Halo, once they changed developers, Halo...
4 was still good. 5 just... They made that... I don't know why they had to make a story that's co-op focused. It's so bad.
You don't care about Locke and his team?
No, I don't. And also, why... it's the same problem Final Fantasy 15 had. We're trying to make it too big. Well, it's... now we're going to have a TV, a series that you have to watch, and a movie, and everything. Come on now. Stop it. Stop it. So, Mark, The Division, obviously... Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't need to be on here. I just liked it. I thought, I know Jens didn't like it.
Boring as sin.
I really just like the game world. I thought their version of New York is pretty interesting. And the backstories was that was the part I liked really. The gameplay itself was hit or miss.
And we don't have to talk to Mark about Division 2 and those failings. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I just like the game world. That's kind of about it.
All those loot shooters, man. I've had exactly the same issue with that as with Destiny, where it's just the grind and the repetitiveness, and man, it just wore me down.
And Planet Coaster, I know you like it a lot. So.
It's my same argument for City Skylines. It's the only good roller coaster management game in the past, decade.
Wait, City Skylines is already on the list. Which game?
No, Planet Coaster.
Yeah.
Like you can really design a really great roller coaster if you want to. Like it's really intuitive. Like even like that, which I always find really hard in those games. Like the park management stuff works really well. Like it doesn't need to be on here necessarily, but like if you, like it represents it's a very slim or very like minute genre of games that some people still like to play.
I know we've talked about Stellaris off and on here. Anything else you want to say about it, Daniel?
I mean, it's just a fun game. The only knock against it is the massive amount of expansions that they come out for. But again, the mod community, I think, adds so much depth to the game. It's amazing.
And Jens, Firewatch.
I mean, we talked about Firewatch before. It's another one of those. I really like the setting and the writing, but we've already got better walking simulators on our list, so I'm just going to cut it.
All right. That makes it easy. So, all right. Now on to 2017. Several people have Cuphead. I just wanted to strike this here. I'm going to have Cuphead on here too. Again, I think I said this every time we mention Cuphead. When you look at Cuphead, that art style is absolutely magnetic. Like, you know what that game is. I don't even have to... If you know anything about the name of that game, I just show you that and you know it's Cuphead. And the music is absolutely fantastic. I still play that soundtrack sometimes when I need to write something. I like the platforming stuff in it too, not just the boss battles. I thought that was... It's difficult, but it's still also good in showing you the mechanics of where you go and fight those bosses. And those bosses are all interesting, and I just love the way that they're animated and how different they all are. And that world, too, is just so... It's also engrossing in itself. Like, there's so much to love about that game. Anybody else?
Agree. No, just 100% agree with what you said.
I can pretty much say a lot of the same things for Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. That's a game you have to play with headphones on, like, to get the full aspect of hearing those voices in your head that are talking to her, but they're also sort of talking to you because you are playing as her. And I just love the way it tells its story. The voice acting in that game is very well done. She wasn't supposed to be the main character. She was just there. They asked her to come in and do a line, and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I think we like her. Let's keep her." And she does one hell of a job as you know, being her. And it's a wonderful like story of just going through and getting through shit you're going through, and it's dark and it's weird but it's awesome. And it's not just a walking sim. It has combat, and it's some fucking hard ass combat because it's Ninja Theory, and you know, and it gets more difficult as it goes on. And I just really think that for being like AAA indie game or whatever, it really, I think, superseded a lot of expectations for what it was. I know you also have Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, yes.
On yours, Jens.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a visual novel where the gameplay is composing poems and choosing. It's kind of like a lot of visual novels where you're trying to build relationships by choosing the things that match the personalities of the people that you're composing these poems for. That's at least the initial conceit of it. But what's so interesting about it is, and I don't want to spoil any of it. I don't really. It
turns it on its head, basically.
Firstly, it's free, so everyone should just pick up and play it. It's not very long either, but man, it just goes places. Like, the story goes so meta and so dark. It just really blew me away. Like, it surprised me a whole lot, and it was very affecting.
Literally makes your screen go dark.
Yeah, as far as visual, we don't have a lot of visual novels on our lists. I think this is like one of the best ones.
I have to say, so I didn't know it was free, or I probably might have just tried it myself. But I saw it was on both of your lists, and I've heard of this game before. So I looked up the best of Game Grumps playing this game. You all suck.
What?
Not that it's bad. You all suck because I got hooked on that stupid thing. And especially when they do the first big reveal of what this game actually is, I kind of got hooked and I couldn't stop watching it. So I hate both of you. I think it makes the list, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't realize it was a free game and I could have just done it myself. But that was one game that I've heard a few things, but I've just never seen anything of. I knew it was weird, and I ended up watching 2 hours of that today. So thanks.
Sure. I like being hated for introducing someone to something great.
Yeah, exactly. You made your case for Nioh several times. Jens, I don't know, you want to do it again?
Yeah, I just think it's one of the best Souls-likes. It's got an amazing combat system. It's super deep. It's got a ton of content, and it's very polished and slick, and it's just amazing. I think it should go on it was huge. So I feel there is an argument for it being a significant game. And one thing that is very interesting as far as significance is the way that they leveraged the beta as far as refinement, and they're doing the same thing again with Nioh 2, where they just had a lengthy beta period where you got to play kind of the first big chunk, like the first two big areas of the game, and they did a ton of actual refinements and tweaking and even huge system updates as a result of the feedback for the beta, which is not something that you see in modern game development very much. So that's kind of one thing that makes it stand out a little.
Daniel, you had it too.
The way to deal with the community.
Daniel, did you want to say something about it? I know you had it.
Just the case that was made on the other podcast is what had me put it on there.
Yeah, so, I mean, Jens has been a big champion of it. He's said it several times, so we'll see if it gets one more shot to make it through. Both Randy and I have walking sims, so...
Mine is better.
Yeah, it definitely has I don't know, man. Night in the Woods is a story that absolutely hit me in the feels because I am exactly that person. I came back from college and I was in a totally different state of my life. I didn't know what to do with myself, and that's very much the main character of this game. She comes back into a town that she used to live in and realizes that everybody grew up without her, basically. And now she's this kid in a grown-up world, and she's having to see... And they're with anthropomorphic animals, too, which is also what's interesting about it. And it's just you're going through it, she's going through so many different emotions at the same time. And there's also this weird, story with the town happening. And it has freaking a Rock Band game inside of it, too, which gives it extra points for me. Or Guitar Hero, I guess. It just, and they're all a group of friends that are trying to help each other out, but also trying to get your main character to realize that, okay, you got to get your shit together, man.
Wow, I didn't realize it was a walking sim. I thought it was just an adventure game. Is it actually first person?
It's not first person. It's not a walking, but it's a third person walking sim because all you do is jump and walk. You don't really kill anything, or it's no combat. So, Randy, What Remains of Edith Finch is a fantastic walking. That story is great.
I was going to say that sounds like Parappa the Rapper.
There is some Parappa the Rapper in there, but it's Guitar Hero instead of Parappa the Rapper.
That's awesome. Now, Edith Finch, to me, is the best walking simulator I've ever played. I haven't played that Night in the Woods game, so I'll put it on the list for you because I have no idea. But Edith Finch you go through a bunch of different stories, like I said on a previous podcast, of the different family members of the people that lived in this house, and all of them are just so tragic in different ways, and how they met their demise. It's just such an interesting story, in a way they they portrayed it, and each story is told in a different way. Like one, you're in like a comic book. It's put together so well. I've never played anything like it.
I will second putting on the list. It is. I thought about walking simulators in a different way after I played that game. Like Firewatch didn't really hit me like that, Gone Home did, because again it kind of deals with coming home from college and something being different. But like, yeah, Edith Finch was just like one of those like, damn. There was just so many great things in 2017, or I would have fought harder to put it on our list that year. But it's, it was a fantastic game that I think a lot of people perhaps didn't play because it's one of those, and I think at that point it was still getting that treatment of, oh, it's one of those, so only certain types of people are going to play it, and, Mark, you have, again, run into the thing where you have, like, 5 different games on your list. I will say this. Everything should go on the list because it is such a... There's no other game like Everything.
It has everything in it.
Yeah, but it's like, I've played a little bit of that, and I remember having to read your review and everything, and I watch videos, and I'm like, what the hell is this game? Like, so... yeah, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, I have 4 other games. I have Gravity Rush 2. It doesn't need to be on here. It's neat, but it's more the same.
I would love Gravity Rush 2 on the list, but okay.
I mean, I think it got repetitive after a while.
Oh, so like Gravity Rush.
Yeah. Puyo Puyo Tetris is on here because like it shockingly came to America. Like I had the import version. I mean, that was the reason I bought my PS4 in the first place. And it came out to America, and I was like, yes. And I got the digital copy, and I was even happier. But it doesn't need to be on here. I thought Prey was neat. Personally. Yeah,
I mean, we didn't put either one of the Dishonored games on the list.
Prey is good, but it's no Prey.
Oh, come on. It's a different game.
I like Prey more than... I didn't play the second Dishonored, but I really didn't like Dishonored 1. I like the idea of it, but playing it was just not fun for me. Playing Prey was more fun, or was it actually an enjoyable experience?
Dishonored disincentivized playing it in a lethal way, which was the fun way to play. So it's like, if you want the good ending, you've got to play it as a stealth game, and I didn't like it as a stealth game, but I want it,
I mean, that's what helps in 2, is that they give you the option of playing as either way.
Yeah, so. I didn't actually get very far in Prey. I kind of fell off it very, very early on.
I think Prey also, like, you can't, like, it still does kind of have some of that element, like, you're not supposed to kill too many people. The only negative I have about Prey is, at least on PC, it was pretty buggy at launch. Like, I had the ending I got was, like, not the best ending because the character glitched out on me and turned hostile. Or, like, assumed, like, she was dead, but she was hostile, but she was still also alive. And I was like, wait, what's going on here?
Isn't the DLC for that also like really good that they added later?
Yeah, I haven't played it. I mean, I've had a code. I mean, I tried it for a second, but it was like the DLC came out like way too late for me to care.
Yeah,
like that was the other problem. But it was supposed to be like some roguelike game. Like you had to keep going through like simulations over and over, and you got like different weapons and different abilities. That was neat. And the last game on here was Sonic Mania, and it's the last good Sonic game since Sonic and Knuckles. So
Sonic Mania is great. I love Sonic Mania.
I mean, it doesn't need to be on here, but it was still impressive that, like, hey, they could actually someone could make a good Sonic game. It just wasn't.
It's a perfect game for the Switch.
Right? It was Sonic fans, right?
It was Christian Whitehead and like other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I played that. I agree with you. It was a really good game.
Yeah.
Well, we can go on to 2018 now, and I think we can pretty much put this on here. Like 30 people have it on their list. Beat Saber is the music game right now. It's also in VR, and it makes VR worth it, regardless of whether you want to.
It's only in VR.
Yeah, it's only in VR, and it's like I still wonder if I want to get the Move controllers just so I can finally get it for my PSVR, because I still want to play that game really bad, because I'm a music game lover, and so. Thankfully, they're just now adding other kinds of music, because that what is it, electronica or whatever that it has.
Yeah, the problem with Beat Saber is like just the soundtrack. Like, unless you're playing it on PC, like it's very scattershot, and you probably won't find a ton of music that you might personally like in it. Like, that was my problem with it. But it still is like a very great game to play.
And I will just make a case that Monster Hunter World brought Monster Hunter to the masses finally. Look, like nobody talked about Iceborne this year, but that's because I think people kind of played Monster Hunter World. They got all they wanted to get out of it, and then only the hardcore Monster Hunter players stayed around to play Iceborne. I think the casual audience that was playing it in a January that didn't really have a whole lot. That's also what helped it, is that Monster Hunter came out. It was a January game for 2018, and it had a lead before something else that was great came out, so people got to just really spend time with it. And, obviously it had some messed up multiplayer, but, I thought the main campaign was good. The bosses they escalate as a Monster Hunter game should. Some of the DLC that was added was, like adding in the Behemoth of Final Fantasy was really cool. And then I just think that people kind of dropped off when it came to Iceborne. People just didn't care at that point.
It should be an influential list, but not necessarily on any Game of the Year list.
My biggest argument against Monster Hunter World is that it has the worst user experience design I've ever seen in my life. Like, trying to get a group, trying to make a group into like a particular hunt.
How the hell do you have a password system in 2018?
Like,
really?
Menus within menus, super obtuse. Nothing makes any goddamn sense. Matchmaking was horrible. Like, I could not believe, like, especially considering that this was like, the big return of Monster Hunter to the West, and also considering how big it was, I'm stunned that people were willing to deal with the.
Go on.
No, please. It was what?
I was going to say it was billed as the mainstream Monster Hunter game.
Yeah, exactly. For like something that's like, here's the mainstream Monster Hunter game for normal people. The fact that there's normal people who would actually put up with how bad the menus in that game are is staggering.
All right, Ni no Kuni 2, Mark.
I just thought it was good. I didn't like the first one that much. This one played a lot like a Suikoden game, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so important question: how different is the combat system from one?
It's a lot.
It works. Like, it's good now. Like, you actually have control of your character.
Well, you don't have the Pokemon thing from one.
Yeah, you don't. Like, you just control your character. There's no monster gather or like monster catching or anything like that.
Are you still picking things from a menu while you're also walking around in real time?
I'm not. I don't remember. I don't think so, though.
Isn't it more like Tails?
It's more active. Like, you're more.
Yeah, it's more like Tails.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
It's not like fucked up like the first one was, because I didn't like that.
Well, and also like the Higgledies can like completely just wipe out.
Yeah, you have like the little like troll creatures that just fuck up everything in that game once you get enough of them. You collect characters. You have to like build up your castle. A lot of menus, just kind of watching timers go down. But I thought it was a really good and fun RPG, like JRPG. It doesn't need to be on the list, but I just liked it.
Mega Man 11.
Another my Sonic argument for this game as well. Like, they finally made a good Mega Man, like a modern Mega Man game.
Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, you kind of talked about it.
Yeah, I didn't play it. I mean, we can cut it, but I wanted to play it.
And Metal Wolf Chaos XD, Jens, for 2019.
Okay, so just briefly, I realize it's not going to make this list. I just wanted to say it's a classic From game that we've been pining for a very long time. Birthed a thousand memes. It was a huge import game for a very long time, and it finally had its premiere release in 2019. And since we're counting U.S. release dates, I'm like counting it as a 2019 game. And I think it is historically notable for what it is, which is a crazy Japanese take on American culture as a mech game from Software, and it's hilarious. And I mean, I know it plays basically like an Armored Core. So if you know what Armored Core plays like, I know there's a lot of people who are like, once it came out, were like, well, it didn't age very well. But you kind of know what you're in for with it, and I think it's pretty darn good. But I realize that it's not going to make this list.
All right, before I have Randy recap what's being taken over, does anybody want to say that there's a better driving game than Forza Horizon 1 to be the traditional the driving game to be on the list? Because Forza Horizon 1 actually made it as a number 10 for 2010.
If anyone says a Need for Speed game, I will shank you.
No, well, Need for Speed was terrible.
Nobody would ever say that.
Yeah, I'm just talking about whether it be one of the other Forza Horizons or Forza Motorsports, or I can't think of something else right now. Project Cars or whatever. Are we going to keep Dragon Ball FighterZ as the representative fighting game, or does somebody think that one of the Mortal Kombat? I think it depends, right, what you care about, because I think you could argue that Mortal Kombat definitely has like better stories.
I think Mortal Kombat. My problem with Mortal Kombat is it's just so interchangeable. Like
yeah.
I honestly couldn't. If you had a screenshot of Mortal Kombat 9 and 11, aside from the obvious graphical upgrade, I couldn't really tell the difference between them. And like Dragon Ball FighterZ, it uses that Guilty Gear Zerd engine, but I mean it has characters that you care about, or at least that you know of.
Right.
So that's why it's impressive. And there's still a lot of fucked up shit in that game. Like the lobby system is insane, but I think as a core fighting game, it's just still fantastic.
I will say this purely as a collector of figurines. I feel the Guilty Gear characters are much better.
How dare you say that about Captain Ginyu?
All right, Randy. So tell everybody how many games, and I guess what are the games to recap that we're
So are we adding
over?
Dragon Ball FighterZ? Is that what we ended up?
I told you there was 102 already.
Okay.
So that's
Just wanted to
Fortnite and
make
Dragon
sure.
Ball FighterZ are 102. So how many more are we parsing
Well,
through
all
here?
together, we just added 38 games.
Holy shit! So that's 140.
Well, no, with those
138.
138.
138. So we'll
Big
have
difference.
38 games. You're right. 38 games we'll have to cut on our next one, where we get it down to the 100. And that's that's a lot. All right.
Or we should add 12 and just have a top 150.
It might be easier at this point. Some of those games are like, we'll make the list. We'll just put it on there and we'll be done. All right, here are the 38 games that we have put up to possibly cut into this top 100, and that'll be fun. Deadly Premonition, Fallout New Vegas, Fortnite, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Plants vs. Zombies, StarCraft 2, Rock Band 3, The Witcher 2, Rayman Legends, Gears of War 3, Spelunky, Diablo 3, Binary Domain, Sleeping Dogs, Crusader Kings 2, Final Fantasy 14, Gone Home, Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance, Hearthstone, PT, Octodad, Endless Legend, City Skylines, Splatoon, Rainbow Six Siege, Kerbal Space Program, Life is Strange, Pokemon Go, No Man's Sky. Is anybody even listening anymore? Stellaris,
Oh, yeah.
Cuphead, Doki Doki Literature Club, Nioh, Hellblade, Night in the Woods, What Remains of Edith Finch, Everything, and Beat Saber.
God.
Yeah. One thing I was just thinking is Plants vs. Zombie and Splatoon are kind of filling the same niche here. And I think Splatoon is probably better at it.
No, I would say the opposite.
We'll get to that next time.
Okay.
All right. So, well, that's our last chance rankings. So now we have to parse through 38 games to figure out if we can actually finally start making headway into the top 100. And that'll be for the next podcast. So if you stuck with us for the whole 2 hours, God bless you.
That'll be the 8-hour-long podcast.
God bless you. And thank you for listening. And for all of us here, you can hit us up on Twitter. Randy is at Randy Isbelle. I'm at WTM Sean. Jens is at Aperture Silence. Mark is at Humanity Plague. You can follow the whole network at WTM Network. Daniel, I know you're not a big Twitter person.
Not at all.
And yeah, check out the WTMnet.com. Our top 25 of 2019, the written article is finally out. And we have our first few reviews of 2020 that we're doing, even though Mark's technically reviewing a 2019 game, just it happened to hit PC in 2020. Monster Hunter World Iceborne expansion. And I'm still waiting to find out on Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. So, yeah. Until, I don't know when we're going to do this to try to get to the actual 100. See you next time, everybody.